Hello everyone and welcome back to this series on Feed the Beast Revelation 2. So in this episode we are going to go over a few things, mostly revolving around getting more farms going. And with that, the previous episode we set up this tree farm, which has been doing really good. The one problem we ran into was power. And so I realized that I needed more generators, so I now have several generators going. And as we can see, this is full. These are still running though, so I need to fix that. I think it's because let's see, this is going out. Inputs. These should be output strong signal. There we go. That should be going off here in a second. Oh, okay, let's set these to set him to only active on redstone. There we go. Okay, so now we have 5 generators in here, which is about the amount of power required to run this entire system. Actually, I could probably get away with just 4. I had just 4, and this thing was full most of the time. This thing, the 5th one I'm going to use to probably expand this out to the next level. When I go to the next capacitor, there will be more trees available to chop down, which will require more power. And so as we see, we have 2 big trees going right now. And so once these 2 are done, we'll see how much power we have left. Probably just throw this in here. Yeah. Okay, it's done. So it used up quite a bit of power, about 500,000 RF. And yeah, so it's going to fill that up, and then these are going to kick on. And we actually have an excess of wood. I mean, the wood is filling up a lot. So this is, yeah, we're already at 16 out of 32 stacks. So we're going to run out of space for the wood. These are actually backlogging too, which is good. So we're going to have an excess of saplings to do other things with. My goal would be to actually get maybe some biofuel or something along those lines. And so we'll have access to the generators. And they do produce quite a bit of RF per tick. 160 for these biofuel generators. And about 640,000 RF. So we do need a bioreactor and stuff. That's further down the road, but having a mixture of things being produced like saplings is going to be helpful. All right, now that we have our tree farm set up, what I want to do now is actually work on another farm, and this other farm is going to be strictly for plants. And the goal for this is to have a mixture of different types of plants that I can use for creating biofuel. So I want to just get biofuel going early on. I know I said lava before, but lava is super easy to set up, and we actually might do lava as well for supplementing our power with biofuel. But biofuel, I want to use that as our main source. We kind of make this like a more self-sustaining base where it could self-produce a lot of things. And so there's several different ways we could do this. There is industrial foregoing. There's the thermal expansion block that produces plants, which is the phytogenic isolator. This is an augment for that. So we can do the phytogenic isolator and have those set up. Those are actually not too hard to set up. Just you have to have a constant flow of the fertilizer that it requires. I'm not quite sure if I want to do that yet. Industrial foregoing is pretty easy to get set up. It's very simple. There's only 2 blocks you need to make. So if we look up, I actually have a book for industrial foregoing. So we can look up that in this book. We have agriculture. And so we have the plant sower and the plant gatherer. Those are the main 2 that we need. And we also have byproducts, like we have the sludge refiner. We could use plant interactor. Oh, okay, so this is just for harvesting fruits and stuff like that. This would be very good if we have like a berry farm going. So I might have to look that up as well in the near future. We don't need a sludge refiner. We could use a sludge refiner to get other materials, like just a constant flow of like soul sand and maybe some things like sand. But the two main ones we need to make is the plant sower and the plant gatherer. And I've done this before. I did this on the previous series for Revelation. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna get this set up, and then we'll work from there. The goal is to work on getting the, let's see, we want to get generators. We want to get the bioreactor going. And so if we use 9 different items, we can produce up to 1,440 millibuckets of biofuel. And then a biofuel is pretty neat because we can use that in biofuel generators. We can also use that in the new Ender.io generators. If you look up Ender.io, they have one for, I'm trying to think what that was called. I think it's combustion generator. I'm fairly certain we can use biofuel in this. We can definitely use crystallized oil in here. I'm not sure if it's as efficient as the generators from actual editions. We can use tree oil. We could use biodiesel, crude oil. Yeah, there it is, biofuel. So we get 125 RF per tick, and it uses 2 to 4 millibuckets per tick. So I need to do some math and see how efficient this combustion generator is. There's actually a better version of this. There's the enhanced combustion generator, which I think it just lowers the amount of fuel being used. So we have the 2 different versions of that. And also you can have coolant types. This is very similar to the one that you get with thermal expansion. So let's see, thermal expansion has a similar one. And it's the, let's see, the reactant. No, that's not it. Compression dynamo? Yeah, this is it. So it requires fuel and coolant. So they are very similar to each other. Now, of course, we can use different types of fuels in here. We can also use the, I'm not seeing the biofuel one. Does the canola? Yeah, I'm not seeing the biofuel. The biofuel's purple. If I just look up biofuel, that's probably the best thing to do. Let's just look up what can be, this could be used in. So we have combustion generator, okay? And we also have the biofuel generator as well, which doesn't seem to be showing up. Yeah, so the biofuel generator does use up biofuel as well, obviously, since it's a part of the same mod. Okay, so that's what we'll do. I'll just work towards this biofuel generator, and maybe we'll look at the combustion generator from Ender.io as well in the future. It doesn't seem to be as efficient as the actual industrial foregoing generator. So I'm gonna get this all set up, and then I'll be back whenever I have that farm set up, and then I'll start working on the generator for that. Alright, I am back, and I forget sometimes that you need to have a tree fluid extractor set up to produce the latex. So what I wanted to show you though was this setup here that I have going. Right now I'm just mainly feeding in power and stuff like that. And I realized that these coal generators, they actually stop whenever they hit the maximum amount of power. They actually won't eat up any more coal, which is good. So you probably don't even need this setup here with this RF monitor. You would need this if you were going to do something with, let's say, dynamos, which dynamos continuously produce power no matter what, unless you have the right augments. So this would help save an augment slot if you wanted to go that route. But anyways, this setup here, we have to have the latex processing unit in order to produce the rubber required to do anything in industrial foregrowing. And I've done this before. I think I've shown you this in previous episodes. The audio quality probably wasn't as good in the other episodes as it is now, but I wanted to show you this setup. So what we have is a mechanical user. We're feeding it spruce wood since we have a ton of this stuff. And just a simple place block, and it's always on. Always going to place a block, so whenever a block is depleted, it'll automatically place it. It's a right click, so it's just going to do a simple right click on it. And you can just do, doesn't matter, random slot works. There's only going to be one thing in this particular user. And so we have here the tree fluid extractors, which are constantly draining the tree of fluid. These don't require power, so no power is required for these. And then attached to these, we have the conduits, the fluid conduits. And so these are just another conduit that you could use. They also stack like the other ones do. So you could have power, you could have redstone, you could have items, and you could have fluid all on the same block space. So these are just another ones, and these will extract and send any fluids. Right now I only have extract on, so they're extracting from here, and they're inserting into this. I actually don't need to extract from this. I can just have just insert into here. And I don't think there's an arrow. Is there an arrow? Yeah, there's an arrow. Okay, so it tells you which direction they're going. There's no arrow for the extract, just for insert, which I guess is good. As you can see, that block just broke, and new one was replaced, and now it's feeding into this. So the next step I wanted to show you is I have this reservoir, which I can fill up any kind of container. I've been using this watering can and just dumping it in here. It's very manual, but in Ender.io, there's one of my favorite blocks was the reservoir. So Ender.io has a block that actually will produce a 4x4 block of water, and it has a lot of neat features with this. So you need to have fused quartz, or I think hardened glass would work. They're kind of interchangeable. This requires that, and it requires a cauldron, and we get reservoir blocks. So here's the cool thing about this. Let's go over here, let's grab some probably need to have a couple of buckets. Let's just let's fill this in. That's fine. I'll just scoop up a bucket of water and we'll fill it in. Alright, so we could have our reservoir anywhere. It could be above ground, underground, doesn't matter. And what we do then is we just add water to this. And we need to have an infinite water source. So we need to have 2 blocks of water on both sides. And it'll constantly flow. Water. It'll constantly fill up now. Take some water out, it constantly fills up. It acts like a 2x2 block of water. And so it'll constantly fill up. Now what we could do is we could directly hook this up with our fluid conduits into this machine. I don't want to run into this, so I'm just going to go above it. And we can do extract, always on, and there we go. We have an endless amount of water being pumped into this from this reservoir. So this essentially replaces the thermal expansion aqueous accumulator, which would require a 9x9 really. So it would require just a 9x9 full of water and plus an aqueous accumulator in the middle, pumping up water. The aqueous accumulator is faster, but you can stack these. You can have multiple reservoirs, and as you can see, the water does not spill out. So if I were to just have a 2x2 in the ground, or even a 9x9 with the aqueous accumulator in the middle, I couldn't dig underneath it because the water would spill out, where here the water doesn't spill out. So now we have an endless water source being fed into this machine here, latex processing unit, and we could use this infinite water source in any application that we run into. So if we had to feed in, let's say for instance, water into another system, maybe for coolant for our generators, we could do that as well. You can also make this bigger. You could make it a 9x9 if you wanted to, and you could upgrade these conduits to the next level. There's actually a higher level conduit, and it actually would produce a faster amount of water being produced or being transferred into the machine here. So I definitely wanted to show you this because it is a upgrade, and I think it's cleaner as well because it doesn't require a lot of space, and it could be put in anywhere. You can put it in, I believe you can even put it in the nether, so you can have an infinite water source in the nether as well. In just a simple 4x4 block, and of course you could use it to take water out. As you can see, we could just take water out of there and put it back in there if we needed to. We can have multiple applications for it, water the ground, whatever. So I wanted to show you that, and I'm going to work on the rest of this setup now that I have the rubber that I needed for the plant gatherer and the plant sower. So those are the two things I'm going to work on now. Alright everyone, we are back and the farm is set up now. So we have our sower and our gatherer here. I didn't set up the fertilizer. It's a little bit beyond where we are at now. It's kind of a pain to deal with. So we have our two farms. We have our tree farm. We have another partial tree farm. What I actually wanted to do was make this a full tree farm and make this a plant farm, which I probably will do at some point, but I wanted to just show you this setup as first before I do anything else. So we have the sower underground, and I'll first show you the gatherer. So the gatherer is pretty just simple. We have to deal with the sludge, but everything that comes in its inventory goes directly into this chest. And so we get a mixture of items in this chest, and the sludge just pipes directly into this trash can for fluids. So I don't really deal with the sludge right now. We can deal with it later, but it does become a pain. It does build up, and if it builds up to the full, this machine no longer works, and therefore your entire farm will no longer work. So right now the trees are growing the fastest in this farm, these oak trees. So below, I've been digging out a lot of stuff. I'm trying to connect everything. I'm trying to connect to the other farm and also to the base. The base is right there. So I'm trying to get this all dug out down here, which I will finish up in between episodes. But for now, I'm just powered by two just charcoal generators. So I'll need to keep an eye on these two. And the last thing I want to show you is the plant sower. So we have different variety of seeds. We have saplings, which we have a ton of. We have just regular seeds. We have beetroot seeds. I have 2 of them because when we set up the generator, beetroots, we can use the actual beets to convert into red dye, which will actually work in the bioreactor. And we can also use the beetroot seeds as well. So we'll be able to utilize both of those. That's why I have both of those in there. Something else I wanted to do, but I could not find, was carrots. I wanted to replace these saplings with carrots. And we could also do melons if we needed to do melons. Those aren't too hard to get set up. And it doesn't require doesn't require the sower to keep sowing them, actually. So we can actually have the melons just be picked up by the plant gatherer when they've fully grown. So that's a little bit easier setup, and even pumpkins too. But pumpkins don't produce as much seeds as melons do. And we have potatoes. So we have, and I do have flax in there, and then barley, just for food. This is string. Always need string, especially later on. We can make it to wool as well if we needed some wool. But it's pretty easy to set up, and everything that gets piped into this chest comes from here. So all inventory goes into this buffer chest. And what I have here is I just have green set up, so just extracting green. And of course power doesn't matter, just everything's being powered by these two here. So we have power lines, and we have this item line. And so green is input, and then we have blue, which is extract. So everything's being extracted on the blue channel from this chest, and it goes into here. And because these are locked down, this is inventories are all locked. Only the items that are in this inventory that are locked show up. So for instance, we have seeds that are not in there. I can put seeds in here, and they'll be piped directly into this automatically. And this is just insert on blue. So the filtering is done by the actual plant sower itself. I don't need to have a filter on either one of these ends here, which is nice. And that's just a simple way of getting this added and getting things piped back into this. So what I'm going to do is actually make this a higher priority. So I'm going to make this a probably a 10. And the reason I want to do that is I want to have anything that comes out of this chest go directly into this chest. And what I will have after that is that if this is full, then things will be piped into maybe this or maybe something else. But I need to get a setup for the bioreactor, which I will do in the next episode, is start working on the bioreactor setup. And I'll probably do it in between these two rims so I can have saplings from here, which we have a lot of. I need to fix these floors too. But I want to have saplings from here, and saplings from here, and also the seeds from here. Kind of meet in the middle, and then fill up the bioreactor, in which I'll have the liquids being pumped out of it into a barrel or some sort. So that's kind of the next goal, is to get the bioreactor set up. But that's going to be it for this episode. We have our farm set up. We have 2 farms set up now. And like I said before, I may have to switch over this to just all trees, just for the sake of simplicity. I have saplings on one side and have you know, plants on this side. But I will need to find some more plants to put in here, such as carrots and maybe melons and stuff like that. But that's going to be it for this episode. I thank you for watching, and I hope this helps you setting up your bioreactor or getting started. And I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.